instructor Marcella Doutro, and I am a business instructor here at Cerritos College. I'm so glad that you've joined us today for Business Week, and I'm very excited that we're going to have about an hour or so to spend with John Howard and Wayne Slavitt. So thank you, gentlemen, both for being here. We're going to start off with a few questions and have these gentlemen share their experience on business ownership. All right, so the first question that we have is who's John and who is Wayne? Big tough one, right? So John, you're up, if you wouldn't mind tackling that one.
Way to go. But yeah, my name is John Howard. I currently own and operate the Chick-fil-A at Long Beach Town Center, which is right down the freeway, right down the 605 here at the Carson Street exit. And I've been in that location. I opened there April 20th, 2006, actually. So we just celebrated 13 years, kind of going on 14 years next April. Just love what I do. I love to be able to create opportunities for young people and but employing people to try to come out and be their best that they can be. So I have about 110 team members that work for me, 12 to 15 of which are leaders in my business, or managers, if you will, that kind of run the store day to day. And I love working with young people. Young people keep me on my toes. That's why I look like I'm 22 right out of college, right? But I enjoy what I do, and it's also great that I get to partner in the local community with business owners like Wayne Slavitt. He's going to tell you about himself here pretty soon. So Wayne and I are also part of a Chamber of Commerce in Long Beach, in the greater Long Beach area, and we serve on the board of directors for our chamber. And Wayne has like all kind of experience in business, not me per se, but I learned a lot from this guy. So you guys will be thrilled to hear what he has to say too.
Well, you're very kind. Thanks, John. John shaved his head so he wouldn't look as old as he is.
Got it.
I have not done that. But once again, John echoed exactly my feelings. We love coming and talking to college students, and I remember way back when in the 1800s when I was in college, I really hungered for an opportunity to be able to work in the real world, to meet business people, to meet people who had not just been in college, but had actually worked in an environment. So being invited to come here to speak is a privilege for us, and we really appreciate that. And what we're hoping we'll be able to do in the next hour is answer a bunch of questions you guys might have. The program is on starting a business. So a little bit about my background. About half of my career has been spent on starting companies, running companies, either as a CEO, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, corporate controller. I had my first corporate controller position when I was 23, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And then the other half of my career has been advising companies on how to grow and how to prepare themselves to be eventually sold. And that's a lot of what I do now. But along the way, in terms of starting a business, you may have heard the saying, find a niche and fill it. Find an opening. Find something that's missing in the marketplace. That's a great way to figure out what you might want to create if you're in the mood to be an entrepreneur and create something. And my most recent venture did just that. I started a retail store in Long Beach called Mobul, M-O-B-U-L. And I did it because my mother and mother-in-law were sick. They've since passed away, but they needed home medical equipment. They needed wheelchairs and hospital beds and bath chairs and incontinence products. And I went to a couple of local stores, and I was appalled. I was just thinking, how could this be a way to help people in their time of need? These stores were small, the product was dirty, the staff was unengaged. And I kept walking into what I felt like Kmart, and I wanted to shop at Nordstrom. So I created Nordstrom, and I did that out of a need that I identified. So as we talk in the next hour, that's a lot of times a guide in terms of trying to think of a business you might want to start, find a need, and see if you can fill it. And that's it. We're done.
And then you'll never really work another day in your life once you do that, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Because retail is 7 days a week, and you have lots of time off. Never have to worry about anything. Never have employee issues to worry about. Never have cash flow issues to worry about. And you eventually become so old from it that you end up buying the product that you're selling to other people. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, thank you both. The next question that we have is your thoughts on how do you start a company?
Continue on.
Well,
I'll follow up.
You know, as I said, I think if you want to be, how many of you want to be an entrepreneur, want to start a business?
Awesome.
So the ideas that you can have could be copying someone else's. Certainly, we see a lot of that in the marketplace. We see, ride-sharing companies. You know, Uber came along, and who would have thought we needed another Uber? And then Lyft came along, and they're competing with one another. And we see these days now that cannabis is legal in California, we see all kinds of stores opening up selling cannabis. So one idea is to start a business is just look at someone else's and think, you know what? I think I can do that better. The other approach is the one I took, which is doing it better, really kind of trying to create a whole new paradigm, a whole new way for the consumers to look at how you buy home medical equipment. I mean, could there be anything more boring than selling wheelchairs and commodes and urinals and canes? But we make it fun. So we kind of created a different way of doing it. And if you ever go on to Yelp and look up our company, you'll see that we have virtually all 5-star ratings. So maybe one of you who wants to tell us what kind of company you're thinking of starting? Yes, sir.
I would, my name is Felipe. My interest now, like you just mentioned, and it's kind of like sometimes taboo, but it's cannabis. And the cannabis business, now that it's legal in California, there's like a gold rush boom, in the cannabis industry, and that's what I'm leaning towards. And I would like to start something related in the cannabis.
Cool. And it's really not, it's not easy, but it's not hard, but certainly you're following a passion. You put your cigarette out now, please, if you don't mind. No, I'm joking. Anyone else want to volunteer a kind of business they want to start?
She mentioned, she raised her hand.
Yes.
I have multiple ideas. One of them that I'm working on is making face painting a more big corporate industry where I hire face painters for organizations and other smaller opportunities, because a lot of people try to find face painters and they can't, especially big organizations. So I'm trying to work that out.
Interesting.
Face painting would be good, as long as there are kids on the planet. Yeah, that's right. All right, good.
Anyone else? Yes.
I would like to flip houses.
I can't hear you. Say it a little louder.
I would like to
Flip houses.
Flip houses.
work in that. My dad already has a construction company, but he does it for others. I would like to design it, get them all houses to get new.
Design it, and then he would do the construction. That's great.
Good.
So that's a great idea, but I will caution you. And by the way, don't ever listen to anyone that tells you can't do it. But I'm going to tell you probably why you can't. Don't listen to me. But we tend to watch 30-minute shows on TV or 60-minute shows like Fixer Upper or Flip That House. And they have some trouble during that hour or whatever, but then the house still gets finished and they sell it for more money than they made. Those are rare stories. And if you're going to get involved in that business, be prepared to have enough capital to buy the house, spend the money on remodeling it, and then maybe having to live in the house because no one's going to buy it at the price you have to sell it for. And I'm not saying it won't work, but it isn't. I think the one thing John and I could agree on about this is starting your own business, it's not a bed of roses. It's not easy. It's going to be fraught with all kinds of problems. But you still should do it if you're passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
How did you, tell everyone how you...
So I was going to just talk about the entrepreneurial side as well. Our founder at Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy was his name, Samuel Truett Cathy, invented the original chicken sandwich. He tried many recipes. He saw his mother cooking pressurized chicken at home, and he thought he wanted to do that for a business idea. So he created this original 100% pure chicken breast filet with his mother's recipe, and boom, 1967, he opened up his first Chick-fil-A restaurant. Chick-fil-A was the first company to ever go into a mall. Back in the late 60s, retailers just did not want to have food around their retail items in malls. They didn't want the clothes to smell like food, and it was just a lot of, there were a lot of challenges in order to get a restaurant into a shopping mall. But in Greenbrier Mall in 1967, Truett Cathy did just that. And now you guys know you can't go to a mall without seeing a food court, right? But Chick-fil-A was the original to go into a mall to have food options for people. I will tell you this, Chick-fil-A has had its growing pains. It started out in mall units, and then in the 80s, it started moving to the streets with freestanding restaurants, with drive-throughs and play areas and dining rooms. And now the company is at $12 billion, as one of the top 3 recognized brands in the nation. And it's all because of Chick-fil-A's persistence to maintain quality with the food, as well as cleanliness in the restaurant and guest service. So hopefully when you walk into a Chick-fil-A restaurant, you'll experience a great opportunity to sit and dine in a clean environment with some world-class people serving you. And that's what we try to do. And we believe that's our formula for getting people to come back and you telling others about our product and our brand. So for me to get started in Chick-fil-A, it was pretty challenging. Chick-fil-A last year in 2018, I think they got 70,000 applications and they selected maybe 100 people. So the selection rate is less than 1%. Not saying any of you couldn't do it, but it is really challenging to get a Chick-fil-A restaurant because of the quality. The capital is not what you would think for a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's probably one of the cheapest on the market, actually. It's probably one of the reasons why the application rate is so high. Applications coming in are so high. But overall, starting a business can be challenging. I have an aviation background. I went to an aviation university in Daytona Beach, got a degree in aviation, so you can see I'm putting that to work right now, right?
You flew here.
Yeah, I flew over here today. That's right. So I spent 10 years in the Air Force as a pilot, and about when I was maybe 28, 29, I decided that I really wanted to go in business for myself. And I love working with people. I love the Chick-fil-A product. I said, man, I could probably do this. And I was even living in this area at the time. I was stationed in Tennessee, and Chick-fil-A saw that I was from this area, and they said, we're going to do a freestanding restaurant, the first of its kind in Los Angeles County. Would you be interested in moving back to just open that restaurant? So I agreed to it. We made it work, and the rest is kind of history here. So from 2006 to now, there have been ups and downs with the company, with the local economy, with just people. I think when I spoke here last year, I told you all, many of you probably weren't here, but the best thing about being in business for me has been the people, and the most challenging aspect of being in business has been the people. And there's people that work for me, there's people extrinsically to the business that come in as customers. There's a lot of outside forces through the government regulation that can really be challenging for business leaders as well. But overall, there's been way more good days than bad days, so I won't complain too much about that.
Now, you left out something very important. It's got nothing at all to do with Chick-fil-A. I'm not stepping in and taking over your job, sorry. And if you read the program with John's background, you'll know, but I think it's worth for John to tell you a little bit. John was a pilot, and you guys all remember what happened on 9/11/2001. You guys were young, probably didn't know.
Some weren't even here.
But every single flight in the United States was grounded. Every plane was forced to land as soon as they could to get all the air traffic off the ground. John, tell everyone what happened.
So I'm in my squadron at Nashville, and I flew C-130s, which are large, heavy trans. Yeah, this guy's like, I know what a C-130 is. It's like a 4x4 with a cargo bay, and 4 engines. We usually take paratroopers, tanks, the president's limousines, wherever the president is going. We fly a bunch of stuff in the back of our C-130s. But that day we were sitting in the squadron, and we saw what happened to the World Trade Center, obviously, and at the Pentagon, and subsequently what happened in Pennsylvania. And we got a call from Tennessee Donor Services, who's responsible for basically finding donor recipients for babies' organs. So there's a baby that died in Nashville. The parents were gonna donate her liver to a donor recipient in Houston, Texas. Obviously, the plane that they planned to put that organ on couldn't take it because all the flights were mandated to be grounded. So she called my squadron, and me and another pilot got a crew together, and we actually flew that baby's liver from Nashville, Tennessee to Houston, Texas, to Texas Children's Hospital. You can actually Google baby Karina, and you'll see the whole story there.
And how old is she today?
She's 18 now, so we actually had a chance to save a life that day. which was pretty remarkable considering what had happened. Thank you. But if you just ask anybody on my crew that day, they will just tell you we were just doing our jobs and we had a chance to save a life, and we just did the mission like any other mission and came back home. I mean, we didn't know if we were going to get blown out of the sky that day, but we all thought that it was worth the risk to save a baby's life. And yeah, thanks for
Now, that's a
bringing it
made-up
up.
story, but it sounds so compelling. People love to hear that story. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the kinds of business you can form. What John's been talking about is a business structure known as a franchise. Is everyone familiar with a franchise? Okay, so just for those of you who aren't, a franchise is when someone comes up with an idea. In this case, the person came up with the idea in the 60s to open up a chain of restaurants, but that each of those restaurants would be owned by individual people, even though it would look to the consumers that it was one big company. And you see this happening everywhere. Perhaps the only one that's not like that, that's big, is Starbucks. Starbucks owns all their own locations, but almost any other food restaurant you might eat at, whether it's Chipotle or Taco Bell or Pizza Hut, any one of those fine dining establishments are all franchises. And that's a way to start a business.
Yeah, Starbucks, In-N-Out, they're all company owned. So somebody like me is called a franchisee, and I actually pay Chick-fil-A a certain amount each month in order to use their name so I can operate my own business. So there's a franchise fee that goes along with franchising that you have to pay. It could be anywhere from, I've heard of franchise fees as low as 3%, some as high as 15, 16% each month
That's a
of your
percentage
sales.
of your revenue.
Of your
off
gross
the top.
revenue, yes. But to me, it's worth it. I pay Chick-fil-A that amount. I get to operate my own business under the Chick-fil-A name, Chick-fil-A umbrella, and reap the profits from that business.
So let's compare it to a business that you might just want to start, a cannabis business or a house flipping business, or in my case, a retail store. I didn't have a company to look to who had already done it. Now, there are a bunch of companies in my industry that have already done it, but I've got such a big ego, I didn't like the way any of them did it. So I decided I'd better go build my own better mousetrap. So I had to find a location. I had to hire a consultant to help me design the store. I had to hire an industry expert to help me figure out which product I wanted to sell. I had to go meet with those suppliers. I had to talk them into doing business with me who had no experience at all in the industry, none at all. I had to set up the accounting systems. I had to set up the shipping systems. I'd hire the employees, how to train the employees. So it's a lot different, a lot more work. The benefit of a franchise is they've done all the heavy lifting for you. They've got manuals that tell you how to hire people, how to review people.
Prepare products.
How to prepare products. They'll even tell you where to get the products from, right?
true.
You can't, at Chick-fil-A, you can't decide just to go to Ralph's and buy chicken and start selling that chicken.
That's right. But I have to pay for all that.
You got to pay for all
Yeah,
that. And those sauces, you guys like those Chick-fil-A sauces? Next time you're there, take a couple extra, put them in your pocket. And John's okay with that. It's not a big deal at all. Not a big deal. So those are the two kind of basic business structures.
Yeah.
And which one you choose, and by the way, there's a bunch of different kinds in between, but what you choose depends upon what you want to do and how much control you want to have over your business.
That's right.
So in John's case, he's following the rules of the mothership.
Case in point, Chick-fil-A's are all closed on Sundays. If I ever got this crazy bug to open on Sundays, I could not do that. That would be in violation of my Chick-fil-A franchisee agreement. But if you are in control of your own entrepreneur endeavor and you decide to open up a seventh day of the week, you don't have to answer to anybody except yourself. So yeah, there are rules that you have to abide by as a franchisee.
Yeah. And I can sell whatever product I want. I can not sell product I want. CBD is a big deal now in our industry, so we can sell that.
Yeah.
I can't sell THC because we don't have a
Not
license.
yet.
Not yet, but it'll probably happen. So anyway, so that's how you start a business, I guess, right?
All right. The next question is talking about your passion. Any comments on your passion as it relates to business?
I think
Chicken?
Yeah. For me, my passion has been people from the beginning. I mean, obviously, I just told my 9/11 story. That was a highlight of my flying career. I've been impacted by so many people since I was so young who really made me into the man that I am today, just personally, socially, spiritually, physically. I just appreciate it so much about life. Life has just been so beautiful to me, even through the ups and downs of growing up in Compton. And I really just want to find something I could do, a platform that I could just pour back into people and into my community. So everybody's going to have their own passion, their own jump start to go into business for themselves. For me, I've created a lot of opportunities for young people. I've gotten the opportunity to get them scholarships, to help them get into houses and cars, and it's just really been phenomenal for me. I have this one favorite quote. It says, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant." And I really live by that each and every day. It's not about what I can reap each and every day, just take, but I live comfortably, but it's also more important for me to be able to give back to people too. So that's where my passion really lands. And it's sad, but kind of in the business world, it's becoming a little bit archaic where people just aren't in business for people anymore. And I see it so much in my own company and in other industries as well. Yeah.
How many people do you employ?
I employ 110 people. Right
110 people. Isn't that amazing? And you're not open Sunday.
Yeah.
If you had open that day,
Woo.
you'd have to even have that many more
That's
people.
right, that's right. So we do quite a bit of business in 315 days a year. Then, I mean, we just smash our competition 6 days a week than most of our competitors do out of 7 days a week. So
John's store was the highest grossing fast food restaurant in Long Beach up until 6-7 months ago,
about a year ago.
a year ago.
Yeah.
And who replaced John? A new Chick-fil-A that was opened up in Long Beach.
That's right.
On the traffic circle.
So now we're 1 and 2.
Exactly, exactly. So passion for me was personal and also a market-driven one. Personally, every 5 or 6 years, I force myself to do something different. I was never the one. My dad worked for a company for 48 years. When he retired, he was given the proverbial gold watch. I never wanted to work for a big company, although I started out right after college working for one of the big accounting firms. I hated that as much as a root canal and decided it wasn't right for me. So every 5 or 6 years, I've been fortunate to try to do something different. And that kind of guides me. That makes, it's passionate for me. I love creating things. I've started over 10 companies. I love creating things. What I don't enjoy as much is just running it once we've gotten it up and running and figured it out. I call that the custodial part of business,
Yeah.
and I don't mean it in the standpoint of being a custodian, but more of just sort of blocking and tackling and doing the work. So the company I started, the most recent one called Mobul, was started truly out of passion. I just felt that people who have elderly parents or grandparents who need stuff deserve to be treated with compassion. They should be treated with respect. They should have us put an arm around them, cry with them sometimes, make them realize that they're not alone. And we do that every day. And that is probably one of the most rewarding parts of the business for me, is the fact that the most common thing people say to us as they leave is, "Thank you for being here." And no one says that to me at home. No, that's not true. But it's nice to have that. So find your passion, whatever it might be.
Okay, next question, related. How do you pursue your dreams? Any advice and tips on pursuing your dreams?
How do you pursue your dreams? Go for it, Wayne.
Well, so when I come up with an idea, the thing I try to do first is I talk to my wife, whom I've been married to for 37 years, and she's smarter than I'll ever be, and she sees things differently than I
And
see
she puts up
them.
with him.
Oh my goodness. I always tell men to marry up. I have no idea what's in it for the woman, but I got to tell you, I married way up, and she she's a great sounding board. One of the problems with me, sometimes I don't always run things by her before I start it, and I'll come home and I'll say, "Started a new company," and she'll look at me and she'll say, "What?" But in any regard, the real way you want to do it is research, research, research. You can never do enough planning and research And so when I decided to start Mobul, I went online and tried to read as many articles as I could about the business. And the industry is called the home medical equipment business, HME, home medical equipment. Some people also call it DME, for durable medical equipment. I read a bunch of articles. And mentioned in a lot of the articles was the name of a guy named Jack Evans, who owned a consulting business that consulted with hundreds of retail stores in the industry in North America. So I called him up and I said, I want to meet with you. Can I buy you a sandwich? So he said, sure. I made him pay for the sandwich. No, I bought him the sandwich. And I went out and met with him, bent his ear for a couple hours, and I told him what my idea was. And he said, if you can do it, you'll be highly successful. Because the industry, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the industry had not yet gotten to the point of wanting this whole Nordstrom approach to selling home medical equipment. So did a bunch of research. Then he told me I needed to hire my general manager, someone who'd been in the industry for 35 years, because what I lacked was experience in the industry. No one knew who I was. So we went to these manufacturers, told them our idea, and they all fell in line. And they said, we'll do whatever you want to support you. So getting it started really for me was proper planning. You got to write a business plan. How many of you have actually ever written a business plan? I didn't at your age, so if you did, you're lying.
That's good.
No, that's not true. No.
That's awesome.
And that's such an important document. Recognizing that it will never be accurate, you're going to laugh at it a couple of years after you've had your business, and you're going to say, I thought I was going to do what? But at least it's going to give you a chance to put in writing your very best guesstimate of how you think your business is going to unfold and what kind of resources you're going to need. And if you're going to need money, which you all will need money to start your business, and you want to go to your family and friends, they're going to want to see it. If you're going to go to outside investors, they're going to want to see it. But more importantly, it's your roadmap. So writing a business plan is really important.
Very true. Everything Wayne said was true. I would just add in with that is persistence. There's so many times that you're going to have to really pick yourself up and encourage yourself to keep going. Not everyone is going to be on board with what your idea is, but you have to persist. You got to stick with it. If you truly believe that this is going to work and you've had dreams about it and you feel like within your heart like you were really put here on earth to do whatever that thing is, continue on in it, persist, and never give up. Never give up.
And you are going to have, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have everyone you know is going to tell you that your idea is the dumbest idea in the world. Or they're going to tell you that your idea is not going to work.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you every which way it's not going to work. And what you're going to do with that person is you're going to smile at them, you're going to nod your head. Inside, you're going to call them some bad things. No, you're not. You're going to maintain your composure. You're going to thank him or her very much for their input.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to listen to them. Because if everyone who created something big listened to those who told them they couldn't do it, you wouldn't have things in front of you that you can't live without today.
So true.
How many of you use a smartphone? Yeah, exactly. How many of you drive cars? Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on. And John's comment about persevering is so important. And that being said, there may be a point in time where you have to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
And you've got to give up, and it might just not be the right time for you to do it. And how do you know? I don't know. Maybe after a couple of months of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I do almost every day, in a panic, that might be a clue. Maybe you've run out of money. Maybe your employees have all quit. Maybe it's not bringing you the joy you thought it was going to bring you. Any number of reasons. But that decision should be yours.
That's right.
Don't let your next door neighbor tell you that your idea is dumb. The only thing that you can do that's dumb is not pursue your dream.
That's right. Even when I left the flying world from the Air Force, my pilot buddies were making all kind of jokes. You're going to trade in your flying wings for chicken wings, and I heard all this stuff. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. I don't even sell chicken wings. Yeah, that's right. Couldn't believe it. But I tell you, I got a lot of phone calls from my Air Force and now airline friends that said, man, you made the right decision when you made it. And wow. I mean, so many people have contacted me to try to get into this business as well. People that I used to fly with, actually. So it's just brought me so much joy over the years, and only because of the perseverance that we're talking about up here.
I would say one other thing, and I told you not to listen to people who tell you you can't do it. So go find someone who's older than you are,
For sure.
who you respect. It might be someone in your church, it might be someone in your synagogue, it might be someone who lives with you, near you, it might be a grandfather, it might be a professor, God forbid, right? It may be someone who's in the same industry that you're thinking of opening up your business in. Find a mentor. Find someone who you can run things by. And if you're just thinking about the idea, hey, say, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I want to pick your brain. Not only will you get, hopefully, some sage and wise advice, but think of the respect that person's going to feel. Number one, that someone younger is talking to them. We get lonely as we get older, you know. But it's an honor to be able to impart wisdom and knowledge. And you might find that person maybe your first investor, maybe a partner with you in terms of helping you, and may decide to think that your idea is such a good one that they'll take their business, add your concept, and you can be co-owners in their business. So never minimize the importance of networking with people who are smarter than you are.
So true.
Thank you. Next question takes a little bit of a turn.
Uh-oh.
What landmines will you encounter, and what advice would you give our students regarding landmines?
You're a military guy. You probably know landmines better than I do, right?
Yeah, let's see. Landmines. There are quite a few pitfalls that you could fall into with business. Wayne mentioned one of those being capital. If you start your own business and you can't turn a profit for 6 months and you have nothing else, no other stream of income, and this is your baby and you're working this for 6 to 12 months and you just haven't seen a drop of profit, you got to do something. Hopefully you would have planned ahead enough to support yourself until that business turned a profit. But if you don't have the capital, that can create some serious pitfalls for yourself. I kind of touched on it earlier. The best part about business for me has been the people. The worst part, when you actually trust people to do a job and then they don't do it, and you have to come to the table and either fire or redirect an individual or two, that can be pretty challenging as well. Gosh, what other landmines?
Well, competition.
Yeah.
If you open a business and there's other similar types of business nearby, imagine what you would do if you were that competitor. You would take the safety release off that weapon and you'd start firing. And so you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
How will you? There's a phrase in business. Those of you that are taking notes, you want to write down this, and that is sustainable, competitive advantage. How will your business be sustainable? In other words, does it have enough staying power to continue on? And is it competitive? Do you have something in the marketplace that people will want to buy from you as opposed to buying from someone else? And those are the advantages. If you can identify those, then you're going to find yourself in a position to compete. But competition is going to be a big landmine. And you may even find competition you didn't even know you had when you first started out. You mentioned the cannabis industry. It's difficult to travel very far these days without seeing a shop. They don't look too obvious. They don't say, Puff the Magic Dragon on the outside or anything, but they're there. And if you're going to open one up, you want to make sure that you're not going to have someone that's too close to you, because then you could reduce your ability to sell as much as you would otherwise. We mentioned people. Gosh.
Yeah.
How many of you work? Probably all of you work, right? All of you have jobs. So you are most likely working for someone else. How many of you own your own company that has employees? Okay. They're hiring, by the way, right now.
You really are. Yeah.
But those of you who are working for someone else, you pose a risk to your employer every day. I need to leave early. I can't come in today. I need a vacation.
Or I slipped and fell.
I slipped and fell. I need more money. Any one of those are
I need
pitfalls.
benefits.
So can you imagine if you put yourself now, forget now you're an employee, and now you own your own companies, right? Now you've got to deal with people like you on a regular basis. That's one reason you don't want to go into business. But you know, I have wonderful employees. My employees are they're just phenomenal. They're great people. I hire people who are compassionate. I don't hire people that know how to sell a hospital bed.
That's right.
I could teach an ape to sell a hospital bed, but I can't teach an ape to be nice and kind and compassionate. So we just hire nice people. But still in all, each of my employees has issues. Where's Deborah today? Oh yeah, she had to take her boyfriend to his new job in Temecula. Okay, what's that got to do with our business, right? But I'm typically kind about it and just take a couple deep breaths and go meditate, and I'm okay. But I would say that landmines, anything in your business can be a potential problem.
That's right.
Anything.
I was going to say, I just add to that, I hire for things that I cannot train, similar to you. So I can't train people to smile and be nice and be compassionate. But we can look for people on the front end that already have those qualities. And like Wayne said, you can teach them to sell your product. You just want great, good-hearted people working for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great advice, thank you. Next question, how do you get started?
Oh, we kind of touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, we're doing the research business plan. Technically, if you want to start a business in California, you have to kind of decide what structure you want to be. There's a couple of different structures that many of you have probably heard of, but if not, we can go over them. One is a corporation. Corporation is probably your most common one. And then there's two kinds of corporations. There's known as a C Corp and an S Corp, and not meaning to get in detail, but it's got to do with how they're taxed. A very common form is an LLC, a limited liability company. Living in California, one of the biggest things a business owner has to worry about that we didn't touch over yet is being sued. You know, John mentioned someone falling, but any number of things.
This is a very litigious state.
Oh my goodness,
Yes.
any number of things you can be sued for. There's employment things, there's wrongful termination, there's hostile work environment, sexual harassment. Discrimination, there's if you don't have the right placard up on your bathroom, you can be sued. If you don't have a Prop 67 warning, you can be sued. You can be sued by your competition. If you borrow money from a bank and you don't pay the bank, they're not going to buy you a birthday card that year. They're going to file a lawsuit against you. So,
or if somebody buys your product and it's faulty,
exactly.
or they get injured by it.
Absolutely.
Or somebody bites into a Chick-fil-A sandwich and kind of burns their mouth or whatever. It's happened. It's happened to me.
Or there's a bone in there or something.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know what So there's ways to set up a structure so that if your company does in fact get sued, your personal assets are protected. That's a very important thing to do in structure. And then so once you set up your actual business, then you got to go to the city you want to operate your company in and get a business license.
And those challenges vary from city to city, from municipality to municipality. Some cities are going to say, yes, we want you to do business here. What can we do? Let's roll out the red carpet to make it easy for you. Some cities, just don't have that knack for welcoming businesses either. So.
When we opened our store in Long Beach, it was a nightmare. Have you guys ever dealt with the city of Long Beach trying to open a business? I'd recommend a colonoscopy before I would do that. The process was a nightmare. I had to go from this department to that department, this department, that department.
Yep.
One department would say, you got to do this. I'd go there and say, they told me I got to do this. No, you got to go here. I felt like a ping pong ball.
And this took you like all day too,
All
right?
day.
It took me all day.
And the most important thing to me was they didn't say thank you. I was thinking, gosh, wouldn't that have been just nice if they said, we're sorry we removed your right kidney, but thank you for opening up a business in Long Beach. Well, we opened a store in Fountain Valley a couple years later, and from start to finish, it was 17 minutes, and they thanked me for opening a business in their city. That to me is how it should be done.
Yeah.
Any regard, that'll take time. If you want to operate your business under a name other than your corporate name, like let's say your company name is ABC Enterprises, but you want to go to market as Susan's House Flipping Company, then you've got to file what's known as a fictitious name statement in that county. That's another filing, another expense, another delay. And then there's requirements that your industry might have. In my industry, I have to have a bedding and furniture retailer license. And if you ever buy a mattress or a piece of furniture and there's a tag saying "Do not remove," take it off. You can remove it. You can't take it off until you sell it. But that's a special license that I have to be able to sell hospital beds and recliners and things like that. And your industry is going to have specific things also. The cannabis industry has a lot of regulations. A lot of regulations.
So in addition, in my industry, just to a business license, we have to have a health permit because Long Beach, the city of Long Beach has their own health department. They want to make sure that you're serving safe food. There's a fire alarm permit. There is permits for, gosh, you name it. It's just a lot that goes into it, So we just want to make sure you all are aware of that when you open up your own businesses, that there are going to be some initial hurdles to overcome. But you can do it, though.
And there are some great resources available right here in this community for you to take advantage of. One is a resource called the Small Business Development Center, and that is housed out of Long Beach City College. They offer their services free of charge.
Yep.
Those of you who are paying income tax in the state, we thank you because those tax dollars are going to help support opportunities like that.
And part of their services, they will review business plans. They will connect you with lenders if you need money. It's just a phenomenal, phenomenal resource that I wish more people took advantage of. So the SBDC.
You have a great resource here right at Cerritos College. Judy Fox, who's in the back of the room, works for the state of California. I cannot possibly even tell you her title because it's
12 words in the title, right, Judy?
Her business card is like this long because it's. But Judy will come up here and tell you some of the resources available to once you start your business. She has like a big car with money in the back trunk.
Money truck.
Just opens it up and starts handing it out all kind. No, you avail people of business resources, funding resources, grant money, things to help them grow their business, correct?
Correct.
And you're housed where here?
I'm in the Auto Partners building right here on campus, but I support the whole Los Angeles region. I'm the Regional Director of Business and Entrepreneurship.
Awesome.
An amazing resource once you get your business started, right?
Oh no, we're free getting started.
Free?
In fact, we're holding a big workshop right here on campus November 15th and 16th. For those of you who raised your hands earlier indicating you were interested in starting your own business, then this is the workshop that you would want to attend, completely free. It's not one of those 10,000-foot views where we talk about, let's get you motivated and excited about following your passion. We're actually going to start
Ouch.
work on it.
Ouch.
Is that what I thought it was?
Someone's a little bitter over there.
And it's feel good, and it's not like we're going to do.
Yeah.
You're actually going to do things that put you in a more advantageous place to get you to keep moving on building whatever it is that you're hoping your entrepreneurial endeavor will be, whether that's a social project or a product or a service, whatever the case may be. So in the next session following this one, and there's some flyers out there too, but watch the website and the marquee, but November 15th and 16th right here. We'll get you started and connected to all those resources that we're referring to.
November 15th and 16th.
Great
Resource. So
Honestly.
for those of you who are serious, you need to be present those 2 days.
Because when John and I were your age, like we had just a stone tablet and like a hammer and all that we didn't have it. The phone hadn't been invented yet. It was so. Well,
you're not that old, she says.
The lighting up here really helps it. But avail yourself.
He's not bad for 82. Not bad for 82.
Exactly. Avail yourselves of these resources. It's free, and not only that, they're friendly, and remember their motivation. What the motivation of these programs is to grow California business. They want you to be successful. So do take advantage of those resources.
All right, thank you. So we have two quick sections left. The next one is some more stories, and then after that we have a question and answer.
So there I was. No. Go ahead, Wayne.
Well, no, you go first. I got to think of an appropriate one.
Oh, an appropriate one. Wow. Let's see. There was, kind of going back to the litigious legal aspects of things. There was, at one point, we hired a young lady, and she just was one of our leaders in the business. So she was opening the restaurant in the mornings, and the next thing you know, she just starts having seizures. And we're like, oh my gosh, she like wound up in the hospital. I had flowers sent to her and everything. And I don't know if many of you know, but when you have seizures, like you can't drive. They take away your license and everything. So we were just trying to make accommodations for her, and I think she was getting rides to work. At that time, we had to like go and make deposits at the bank. We didn't have armored truck service or anything. So I found someone to take over that role. But we still kept her on at the same pay rate as a manager of the business. And the next thing you know, she decides to quit, and I get some papers in the mail saying she was trying to sue me for just mistreating her and mishandling the whole thing. But we kept her on the payroll, tried to make accommodations for her, but for whatever reason, she just thought she can get more. All that to say, when you do go to set up your own businesses, you have to have some type of lawyer backing. I have insurance for attorneys and all kind of insurance you can think of to cover any situation that could probably come up. So insurance is just funny. Having lawyers or retaining lawyers when you need them is going to be necessary, and in a lot of cases, it's just in case stuff happens, right? So I would just highly advise you to do that as well.
Cool. I guess I would entitle this, Be Careful Who You Get Into Business With. So years ago, I was hired by a company called Cal Spas, which was the largest manufacturer of hot tubs in the world, and they wanted to eventually sell their business. So they hired me to come in and get the company ready for sale over the next 18 months as a CFO. And the owner of the company, who I didn't do a lot of good due diligence on, I was sort of relying on the company that recommended I get brought in. He exposed me over the next 18 months to what I now call my Mr. Toad's Wild Ride of Business. If you've ever ridden on that ride at Disneyland, you never know what's up ahead. In 18 months, I did everything but get the company ready for sale because he wanted to have me help him grow the business. So we opened up 14 stores in 18 months, which was phenomenal. And there were no rules in this company. This was in the late 80s. Computer systems were there, but they weren't as available and sophisticated. And he did not want a computer system because the company was a big cash business. The business model was the LA County Fair was the main sales event, even though we had all these retail stores. But in about 18 days of the LA County Fair, we sold about 4,000 spas. And the rule was you put down $100, and then we would manufacture your spa, call you up and say, we're ready to deliver your spa tomorrow, Mrs. Johnson. You owe $3,671. You can either pay us in cash or a cashier's check. Well, most people didn't want to go to the bank and pay the fee for a cashier's check, so they paid in cash. Every day we brought in between $35,000 and $75,000 in cash. And there was a locked cash room that was run by the owner's mother-in-law, and there was no internal controls at all. So he would regularly walk into that room and grab a wad of cash off of the table and stick it in his pocket and go about his day. A week and a half into the job, he opened up my office door, closed it, came in and handed me an envelope. And I said, what's this? He says, this is yours. And I looked at it, and there was probably $2,100 bills in there. And I said, what is this for? He says, listen, this is a cash business. He said, I'll be giving you this on a regular basis. So I did what no one else had ever done, nor had done since. I closed up the envelope and handed it back to him, and I said, no, thank you. I said, if you want to raise my salary, put it in my paycheck, but nothing under the table. Well, he was trying to buy me. He was trying to make me one of his. Anyway, during that time, I mentioned that issue. There was employee drug deals going on.
Ooh,
There was employee theft going on where we would open up a store, we would floor it with 25 spas, go back to visit them 2 weeks later, the store manager quit, and half the spas were gone because he sold them out the back door. That was a common problem. The company was famous for building buildings without permits. So the fire department would show up on a regular basis to do a regular inspection, and the fire chief would pull out the plans and then look over at the building, and look at the plans, look at the building, and notice there was an extra building that wasn't on the plans. And lo and behold, that building had to get knocked down and rebuilt. But the best story, the best landmine ever was, while I was there, this happened unbeknownst to me, but the woman who was running the company, Maria Martinez, and by the way, this is all out in the public. It all became out in the public when it was on TV for a day and a half. She was very much in love with one of her employees, and when he came to work on Monday and announced that he had gotten married, she went crazy, had his office bulldozed off the end of the factory building. He quit and decided to hire an attorney by the name of Gloria Allred, who successfully sued and won a $1 million verdict, the first decision in the U.S. of a female superior sexually harassing a male subordinate. Wow. I found out about it after I'd left the company when I was homesick one day watching a show that's not on anymore called The Phil Donahue Show. It was a talk show, and the company was on for a day and a half. They were actually on the show. Wow. Anyway, I left the company. Every day before I left, my wife pleaded for me not to go to work that day because it was a dangerous environment. I'll tell you one final story. We used to, before we had smartphones, we kept diaries. We kept all of our appointments written down. Chuck comes in my office one day and he closed the door. He says, "Hey, get your date book out for a year from today." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" He says, "Remember that $15,000 check that you wrote to fix the heating and air conditioning?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that jerk who was supposed to fix it messed the whole thing up. I got so mad at him, he's in my office right now. I hit him and he's out cold on my floor."
Whoa!
He said, "And I want to sue him for breach of contract, but there's a 12-month statute of limitations, and I want to know the date next year when I can do that."
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I went to college. You know, like I'm polite. Like I hit things once in a while, but maybe I'll swat a fly. Anyway, that was just icing on the cake. Choose your partners well, choose your friends better, and choose your spouses even better. But the point is, be careful who you get into business with.
Seriously.
I tried to buy the company after I left. I put a $12.5 million deal together to buy the company, and he decided he didn't want to sell. He ended up losing the company. He lost the ownership of the company in a legal matter, and called me 10 years later asking me if I can help him find a job. So, it doesn't always end well. I'm really sad now.
Then we're going to do questions.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Some great stories. So we have about 15 minutes left for question and answer. So if you have a question, if you could raise your hand, and I'll try to get as many people as we can in 15 minutes, and then we'll get John and Wayne's comments. Who has a question? All right, thank you.
What would be, or how would the transition look like from having just your own business starting off to making it like legal?
Making it legal.
By that I mean like being able to be taxed and like the government.
So now you sort of have a business that's kind of casual, below the radar. You're making money. People are writing you checks or giving you cash, and you want to sort of formalize it.
Yeah, or how would that transition look like, or when in the process of the business should that be done?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a great question.
It is.
You know, I would tell you that just because you're earning money and it's not really a business, you still have to report that money. I'm not from the IRS, don't worry. But even like if you're doing babysitting, now there's what's called a de minimis rule. If it's too small of an amount, you don't really have to worry about it. Under $600 a year, you're okay. But let's say you're doing pretty well, and you may want to do it because it's going to be better now. Number one, the money you're receiving, you can't deposit it in a bank account in the name of the business until you form that business. So if you're starting to get checks made out to ABC Company as opposed to just John Doe, then you'll need to formalize it. And the way you'll need to do that is form the organization at the state, and that's very easy to do. You can do it online. It's like $25. Once you get that paper back, you can go to any bank and open up a bank account in the name of the business. And then you'll be able to then receive payments from customers written out or electronically transferred into that company. If you're asking when do I do it, like when's a good time to do that, generically, not knowing what your business is, I would say when it starts to feel like a business, and it's not just some sort of casual kind of thing where you're once in a while going to the swap meet and selling some merchandise that belongs to your neighbor that you now possess. But where it really, you've created a product, or you're
And you have
offering
regular
your service.
customers.
Yeah, and it sort of
Yeah.
feels like it's a regular business. Then you might want to consider doing that.
Yeah.
I can't say there's any real magical, turning point where that is, but you'll feel it.
Good answer.
Hey, don't be bashful. We're
Right
not.
here,
Come
right,
on.
right here.
Okay, good.
Since you're in retail, I want to know what you think of this new, like the wave of e-commerce that's coming on. Like everybody's just selling things online, like retail, like kind of over it.
Brick and mortar versus e-commerce. Sure, it's a great question. There's no doubt about it that e-commerce has opened up avenues to buy certain things much more conveniently. You can transact at home 24/7 and receive stuff pretty darn quickly. I'm amazed how many things arrive at my house on Sunday afternoon at 2:30. You kind of think, take your time, I don't really need it that much. Right?
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that Amazon and the likes of Amazon are having an impact on brick and mortar. That being said, and I'm going to speak very selfishly for my business, there are things that people can buy in my business through Amazon. If you're looking to buy a shower chair, or you're looking to buy incontinence products, there's no doubt. But there are lots of things we sell, the higher ticket items, that are purchased much better in person, because it's very difficult to make sure that you're making the right decision by looking at a little picture on a computer screen. Now, will that get better over time? I don't know. I can just speak personally to customers coming in the store, grateful that they have the ability to try things on before they have to buy it. Now, we have to battle what's known as showrooming. Showrooming is, and the phrase was coined, I think, by Best Buy, and that is where people would go to Best Buy, take a look at all the different TVs they had, and then go home and buy it online because it was cheaper. Best Buy's response to that was, we're going to make our prices internet pricing. At our store, we will match internet pricing, and believe it or not, in our market area, so we sell what are called lift chairs, and they look like recliners, but they also will lift you up. As you get older, you don't have the quad muscles. So all of you need to do your squats every day to keep those quad muscles going, right? But in any regard, in our market area, let's say our 25-mile radius that we do most of our sales in, our prices for lift chairs is actually less expensive than the leading retailers online. Makes no sense, right? We're always taught to believe that it must be cheaper online. The reason it's not in our market area is we do white glove delivery for free. So we don't just drop off the lift chair on your driveway and say, nice meeting you, goodbye. We take it out of the box, we test it, we set it up for you where you want it, we go underneath the chair and put two 9-volt batteries in the transformer, so if you're in a reclined position and your power goes out, the batteries have enough juice to get you back to a safe seating position. We will work with you and give you instructions on how to use it. If an online retailer wants to also do that, they have to hire a third-party company. It's going to cost you as a consumer $350 for that privilege, and it will take an extra 6 to 8 weeks because they have to contract with a third-party company. We also throw in an extra 2 years of in-home warranty labor that the other companies online charge $169 for. The reason we do it for free, we're an authorized service center. We know these chairs well, and they don't break down. And that's a good lesson to all of you. Never buy the extended warranty when you go to buy electronics. It's a sucker's bet. Because number one, you'll forget the warranty when you actually need it, and they take your money up front. But in any regard, your point's a really good point that brick and mortar is threatened, but we believe that we have a niche where people still do need that hand-holding, and they really need to be shown what they need and be fitted properly.
Face painting.
I'm a franchise restaurant, but one of my ideas I really want to pursue is having my own restaurant. What advice would you give me for a person who don't know anything about it?
Okay, so you are interested in franchising or owning your own restaurant, owning your own restaurant. The first thing I would probably tell you is to be a restaurateur, meaning if you have a passion for food and you love food quality and you love good tasting food and you want to make sure that the food is just really appeasing to your guests, you're kind of getting in the ballpark for being a restaurateur. So we see it all the time. Many restaurants open up and after 3 months, 6 months, they're shutting down. It happens in Long Beach all the time. I've gone to some really fancy restaurants all over LA County, and it's great. The presentation is amazing, but the food is horrible. So first and foremost, if people go to a restaurant, it's because they're hungry or they're thirsty. So please make sure that the food is just where you want it. If it's your mother or grandmother's recipe, all well and good, just make sure that it's perfect for each and every guest all day, every day. That's the first thing. Secondly, is cleanliness. If anyone else is maybe interested in the restaurant business, I was brought up to believe cleanliness is next to godliness. People will go to your restaurant for a little bit if it's kind of nasty because they like the product, but I really believe they will return more if your restaurant is clean. And then thirdly is definitely hire great people that can give an outstanding guest experience. And I go into restaurants myself now with a super critical eye. I went to a restaurant for the first time last night here in Long Beach, and I had heard so much about it, so I was excited to go there, but I don't think I'll be returning anytime soon. It was clean as a whistle, but the food was mediocre, and the service took forever, and it wasn't really done with a smile. So it's going to be hard for me to go back to that restaurant. People vote with their dollars every day, especially as you all know here in LA County. I mean, you can go anywhere and get food. So there's a lot of competition out there. If you're going to the restaurant business, just make sure that you're at the top of your game all day, every day, because people do have options.
Yeah, I would offer this simple piece of advice. Don't do it. Restaurants are extremely hard, especially single concept restaurants where and also you said you don't really do this right now. Like if you had told me that you grew up in a family where you had restaurants, or you're a great cook, or you have an idea, maybe a new, I don't know, a salami donut, I don't know, something that would be, but unless you have something that you're so passionate about, I would stay away from restaurants. The failure rate is extremely high. 80% of restaurants fail within the first 2 years. They're expensive as hell to open up. I've been around a couple of restaurant clients, opened up restaurants, extremely expensive, and it does not take much in the neighborhood in that area to negatively impact your sales.
That's true.
So if anything, go to Chick-fil-A and John will give you a free meal.
Yes, sir.
So you talked about capital as like one of the biggest landmines when you're starting a business. So if you do have a good idea, is there any, what are the platforms that you can go to where you can share your ideas with an investor besides like a coffee meeting or anything like that? If you're really confident about your idea, is there a platform that you can go to and share your ideas and look for capital? Because I'm having trouble with just like anybody else and raising, looking at certain risks and not having capital to do so to advance my idea. So
How much money?
I mean, it's limitless, right? But I mean,
Is it like under 50,000?
yeah, for sure.
Crowdfunding?
Yeah.
There's some great online platforms that will let you raise money.
Yeah.
It used to be where you couldn't. You had to go through a private placement memorandum. It was expensive. It was cumbersome. The rules have changed. They've relaxed those rules. I would talk to Judy in the back of the room. Definitely, there's loan programs. There's grant programs. There's interest-free loan programs.
And we talked about the Small Business Development Center. You could definitely walk in there.
There are angel investing groups all over the place. If your idea is a good one, the money will be the least of your problems. I have 3 daughters, one of whom lives up in Silicon Valley and is getting ready to launch a tech concept, and she has more people that want to fund her than she has need for the capital.
Awesome.
If your idea is good, there are resources. But I would first talk to Judy, go to the SBDC. It's at Long Beach City College. We are so fortunate to have a small business development center here so close by. And then to have with Judy here, resident at Cerritos College, take advantage of those resources.
Yeah.
And also, we talked about business plans, starting a business plan. What were some of your earliest business plans like? I mean, as basic as it gets, like, just
Well,
business plans.
my first business plan was 1981. I was going to take, touchscreen computers had just come out, and I developed a business to put touchscreen kiosks in hotels and other public places.
Sweet.
My first business plan. God, I should have done that. I wouldn't be here. And not all ideas get developed. Not all ideas should get developed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
When someone is looking for a service or a product, they always go for like big name companies. So what would you tell them, the ones that want to make a small business, how to get out there so that people can, I guess, how to persuade?
Yeah. Oh, today it's easier than ever. You've got YouTube channels, you've got influencers, you've got the ability to reach celebrities who are going to promote. I don't know what kind of product you're talking about, but there's a ton of channels to get people. You know, is it something you're making or is it a service? A service. You know, if it's a valuable service, get bloggers to start writing about it, get celebrities to endorse it, get people to use it. If it's Instagrammable, I think there's just lots of channels now that didn't exist 5-6 years ago that can get the word out. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to give a service or a product away for free to the right people, and that could propel you into a whole nother dimension as well. I mean, through my franchise, we've done a lot of free promotions, and it has really paid off for us well over time. But for a small company like yourself, if you have a service or a product and you can donate XYZ service or product to let a group of people try it, don't be afraid to do that either.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Yes.
So my question is, like you said that you started a franchise. Besides like choosing the food, obviously, you as the person that decided to open, how did you know this restaurant to choose that connection you had with that?
So your question is, how did I know which franchise to go with? Boy, good question. I looked at quite a few. I looked at Subway, I looked at Popeyes, I looked at Starbucks, which wasn't a possibility back then, of course, and still not today. But overall, I liked the concept of Chick-fil-A. I liked the fact that they were closed on Sunday. I loved the product. I was already a customer and a raving fan of Chick-fil-A, and I always loved the people that worked there. So I would tell you this, if you're super passionate about a product or service, that's a start. That is a start. So if there's something that you use frequently or that you notice that people kind of gravitate to, a product or a service, and you say, man, that is really catching on. I think I could go into business for myself, marketing and or selling that product or service. That's probably a good place to start for yourself. Yeah. Yes?
When it comes to starting your own business, there's always the question of, should I do this with family or should I just do this with not like no family? What would your advice be as far as that?
So the question is, when it comes to starting your own business, should I do it by myself or with family?
How rich are they? No. You know, it's a tough one because when you accept money from people, you have to be open-minded to accept their input and criticism and their control. And they're going to ask you lots of questions that you may not want to have to answer. On the other hand, family and friends, money is how I've started lots of different things. I'm fortunate enough to have friends who have been willing to support ventures in the past. I would not categorically deny it, but I would make sure they understood what the conditions were of this, that this is not the kind of situation that they're going to work in unless you want them to. that you're not going to want to have them call you up every day and ask how sales were the previous day. So I think you need to set the ground rules of what it is, and also make sure that however much money you allow in, that it's not controlling your venture. You always want to try to have control of it, especially early on, so that if you want to take it in a certain direction, you have the ability, and you don't have family and friends saying, no, we own most of this venture, we're going to tell you what to do, because then you lose control of it.
We probably have time for one more question.
Yes, sir.
My name's Yana Camacho, thank you for your time. My biggest question was, for us small businesses that are trying to start up, for example, my business is a service, subscription, monthly car wash service to your house.
Nice.
And the way I would say cost is designating washing in one city or another. There's so many regulations that it kind of defeats the purpose in California. Plus capital is a big thing, and taxes and everything. Would you recommend to launch a business like that, moving to maybe like a state where it's business friendly, less taxes and stuff, and branch out that and then move to the huge market of possible growth in California, or just wing it with California and see if it sticks? Sorry.
I'm thinking as my car's dirty right now, so I'm kind of thinking I can make this work before 2 o'clock. California regulations are very tough with respect to water and
everything else.
Usage of water and everything else.
Yeah.
I would explore what the impediments are in California, because the benefit of California is we're a big market. So you could move to, Rhode Island, but first of all, they don't wash their cars as often as they do here because the weather's not as nice, and it's a much smaller market. So moving out of the area might reduce your ability to succeed. I would try to figure out how I could make it work here. Maybe there's other people doing similar work to what you're doing. I mean, we know there are mobile car washes all over the place, so they're working somehow. I don't know whether you have to have a water recapture system that you use, or I'm not sure what those rules are, but if you can make it work in California, I would. Just know we're a very regulation-ridden state. We're a very tax-heavy state, fee-heavy state. We're all kinds of things.
What would you say is your biggest concern right now with that business?
So my biggest concern is exactly those two things.
Okay.
For example, I look at regulations, I look at collective water and stuff, and everybody wants to cut.
Yeah.
So instead of being able to afford the prices, offer the prices to get somebody to come to me, it would actually cost even more than to do a single car wash for them. So my thing is, well, I could probably dock $2 if I moved to Texas, and not a lot of people in Texas or in Arizona, in Nevada, that it's still kind of the same weather. I can do the same thing. Gas prices are a lot cheaper since I'm driving around. Cost of water is probably a lot cheaper. Basically it's a cost because I don't have a lot of capital, like you said. So $5,000 over there would go a lot farther than $5,000 here.
Absolutely.
No.
All right, great ending question, thank you.
No, good.
Yeah.
Question. So on behalf of the Business Administration Department, I want to say a big thank you to John and Wayne.
Thank you.
Hey, good job, man.
Way to go, Wayne.